Here's how to write an if statement. You've earned it. Let's take a common Salesforce requirement to teach you if statements. Our org gets a lot of incoming leads, and as usual, we don't have enough salespeople to respond quickly to all of them. To help our sales team sort out the best leads to talk to, we've created a grade field. We'll use if statements to assign each lead a grade based on their underlying properties. Note, we're using custom fields in this code, so if you want to follow along in your own org, make sure to create these fields first. If statement syntax goes like this. We begin with an if. Then we have a comparison inside a set of parentheses. This comparison can be as simple or as complicated as needed. Finally, we have open and close brackets with an indented block of code inside it. In this example, the block of code is only one line, but it can be as many as needed. Code inside the if statement's brackets will only run if the comparison is true. So, if this lead's score is equal to 100, we assign an A+ to the custom grade field. Notice how in the comparison we use a double equal sign, and in the assignment we use a single equal sign. Beginners often mix these two up. Right now we have a working if statement. We could save this code and our trigger would work perfectly. But our company needs more logic. What if our lead doesn't have a score of 100 and our initial comparison isn't true? Well, we have the option of continuing our if statement with an else if statement. Else ifs follow the same general format as a regular if statement. The only difference is our else if statement is only evaluated if none of the clauses before it were true. So if a lead has a score of 95, it'll first be evaluated in the first if statement. The comparison is false, so Apex will move on to the else if statement. In this case, the comparison would be true, so the code inside would be evaluated and our lead would receive an A grade. We can keep adding else if clauses as much as we'd like. This else if clause only evaluates if all the clauses before it are false. If any of the clauses before it are true, for example, if our lead has a score of 95, the last else if statement would be ignored. But if our lead has a score of 82, this else if would be evaluated and the comparison would be true. If this was all the logic our company needs, we could save this code and we'd have a perfectly functional trigger. We can also continue attaching else if statements, but our company has decided not to bother pursuing leads that aren't at least graded a B or higher. So we'll end our if statement with an else clause, which is totally optional. Else means if all clauses before it are false, always run this code. Notice how there's no comparison in an else clause, since it always runs as long as the previous clauses are all false. So if we had a lead with a score of 33, it'd get caught in the else statement and assigned an F score. This time, we have another line of code in the code block that also gives the lead a trash status. You can't have any more clauses after an else statement, so our if statement is complete. If you're wondering why we couldn't have just used 4 separate if statements to accomplish the same logic, we actually could have. It would have just been a little more complicated since it's possible if we coded the comparisons wrong, multiple if clauses would be triggered. Using if, else if, and else in the same overall if statement ensures only one of the clauses at most will ever be run. Here's a question. What if the lead score field is empty? What would happen? Well, Apex would evaluate each clause one by one. Empty isn't equal to 100, so this is false. Empty isn't greater or equal to 90, so this is false too. Empty isn't greater or equal to 80, so this is false. Our lead would get caught in the else statement, and the lead would be considered trash. But this isn't necessarily true from the point of view of the business. The lead could very well be an A grade lead. We just don't have the information to evaluate this yet. So we need to fix this. To fix this, we use another if statement. This if statement checks to see if the score field is null. If it's not null, we have enough information and we run all our logic. If it is null though, we don't run any of our logic and ultimately make no changes to our lead. Notice how it's totally acceptable to have if statements nested within a broader if statement. That's one of the beauties of code. We have so much flexibility to tailor our logic to do exactly what we need it to do. The concept of null just happens to be very interesting and a cornerstone of your coding knowledge. Let's take a deeper look at null.